I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I believe we're all here. You have the agenda in front of you. Would you like to approve the agenda?
I approve.
I have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's approved. Now, the minutes approval, you have those in front of you.
I move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Minutes approved. Citizen input. Is there anyone? I have someone back here.
Do we need to hold it on?
No, you don't have to use that.
You don't have to use that. Okay. What I'm here for today is that we had a, I guess I missed the meeting, the specialty meeting that got called, and for approval of some lots that got broke up, and sewer taps and water taps got approved on some lots for some people that were approved that they could get water and sewer. Now, I've been standing here for several years now trying to get 70 water taps, and then all of a sudden we approve people in front of me that I've been standing here waiting to get water and sewer taps, and that's not fair that y'all are approving that stuff and I can't even get mine, and I've been standing here. Everybody knows what I've been doing for 2.5 years trying to get this done. I'm ready to go. I need 70 sewer taps. I need to move forward. I didn't, before it was a water, supposedly it was a water moratorium. So I went and got water elsewhere, got over that. Never seen anything that ever said that there was a sewer moratorium. I know that there's been talk about it. I never seen anything about it. If y'all knows that was there a separate sewer moratorium you guys know about? No, I don't think there was. So we are now, this moratorium should have absolutely nothing to do with me whatsoever, because I have water taps. I have 70 water taps ready to go. So, and if it has anything to do with that, I'm asking for the board to lift it on my part, at least on my subdivision, so I can move forward with my project. I got everything's in row. I'm ready to put it through the planning commission, and I have everything done. And so I'm asking for you guys to lift that moratorium if it affects me, but I don't believe that it does, because I have my water and it was never a sewer moratorium.
Mark.
Go through the planning commission before this.
Something's got to be lifted first so I can move forward.
Mark, what's your comment on this now?
As I have said before, I would be comfortable recommending that we lift the moratorium when we have a plan in place for what we're going to do to our wastewater treatment plant, and we have a funding plan in place. And once we have that, I wouldn't have any issue recommending that we lift that moratorium.
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay.
And
We're trying our very best to get a plan in place.
I understand, but
We'll have a little more
the thing
information,
is,
I believe, here in
yeah,
just a
I know
minute.
what he's about to tell us, but
That is what it's for.
yeah, I know. I was in another meeting that we were all in. But the thing is that it was approved and people are ahead of me again as far as water taps and sewer taps that should have never been approved, in my opinion. When I'm sitting here trying to buy 70 at a time, and now we're getting 2 here, 2 there, 2 here. I mean, where's that? I mean, it's not right that that's being done. And I feel that it should be lifted so I can move on with my 70. I understand that there's other projects out there, but you're looking at 1.5 years before I can probably get through far enough, through all the rock and everything over there before I can even go into the railroad tracks to tap it to put my first house in. So I'm 1.5 years out. As soon as you guys say, okay, we're good to go on your 70, I'm still 1.5 years out with infrastructure.
Well, we're going to try and address this just as soon as possible, like maybe the next month. We're going to put that on some work sessions, and then we're going to try and get that moving as fast as we can.
But is there a way we can lift it for as far as because unless you guys tell me different, this moratorium does not affect me. It does not affect me because the moratorium was not placed on sewer. It was placed on water. Water does not affect me. It has nothing to do with me whatsoever. And unless you guys can show me where it went through as a sewer moratorium, I haven't been able to find it where it went through.
It did go through as a sewer moratorium. We've been talking about wastewater capacity for several months since we lifted the one on the water, and we did go straight into a discussion about wastewater capacity. It was also discussed in several planning commission meetings. We can pull up the tape if we need to, where, you know, it was discussed that we didn't have sewer capacity to service the project that you're wanting to do. We discussed that several months in the planning commission. So I don't think that anybody here is wanting to hold you up, but I do think that we should all be interested in at least having a plan in place going forward before, you know, we lift the moratorium. I think that that's just prudent on our part.
Okay. Well,
We're
that's
gonna
fine,
try-
but I then, okay, if that's the case, then we need to shut everybody else down that comes in for a water tap and a sewer tap, period. That's not right. Nobody else should be able to move forward if I can't move forward.
We're gonna try and get a plan in place just as soon as possible.
Because if we have no capacity whatsoever, we have no capacity. So nobody should be able to buy 1, 2, you know, 2 here, 2 there, 2 there. It's not right. I mean, shut it down. If that's what it is, let's shut it down. And then when it's open, then we can all move forward.
We will discuss that. Thank you. Okay, any other communication? Or citizen input? Communication from the mayor. I want to thank everyone for all the work they've done these last 2 years on behalf of Jackie Zerlin and myself. And this will be our last meeting as the 2-year group from the last election. And I want to thank you for, we accomplished quite a bit. We managed to get this work together, and I thank you for that, and I thank everybody for running a really good, clean campaign in this last election. And I want to congratulate all those who will be serving this upcoming 2 years. Also, I want to get 2 meetings in place before. I would like 2 planning meetings. The fall teams have asked, or the not teams, but the group has asked to have a planning session with them. And so I want to schedule one, and I'm open. Does anybody have a suggestion for a good date that we can ask if they can be here?
I just think it should be after 5 o'clock. Huh?
Right, and we will have at least a 5 o'clock meeting. Do you have a date that you would be? I'm open. Anybody? You said next week. Oh, this week, but next week is.
And then
Would next Tuesday night be okay?
Yep.
At 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock. will be a little
6
better.
o'clock.
Are we talking the 18th?
I keep forgetting you.
The 18th.
Marion,
Yes.
I don't know if I'll be needed for that meeting, but I will be out of town next week through
Okay.
Thursday. If you want me to participate, that is. But I'm pretty clear after that, after next Thursday.
I'm not sure. Do you know if they will need him to be here? You know, I just heard about this one.
I think they just want to
Present their,
what their plans are, and as a preliminary thing.
I think if we're just gonna work, then we can work and then send anything we need to you through Mark, if that's okay with you. All right.
Yeah,
we will-
that's great.
All right.
So next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at 6, and the ball group. And I would like to schedule a planning session with the new BOMA. And does anybody have any particular time? Sometime before we, basically before the September meeting. And that the September meeting is going to be the 14th. So could we meet the first week? Does that,
The first week of September.
how about on a Thursday? Does that work? 6 o'clock? Okay.
That works.
So the third,
3. Yeah, 3. It's the third. All right. Yes.
I apologize, but I do have my only other council meeting is actually the first Thursday of each month. So that is a conflict for me as well.
Well, actually, I was hoping we would just sit down and discuss some things like plans and how we wanted to do things and what we wanted to do. And the only thing I think we need to decide is how we're going to move forward, whether we're going to hold a special election. And, you know, if you could let us know what our options are before that, and then maybe how we were going to do some other things, but not anything major, just some plans of how we want, what our goals are for the next 2 years, things like that.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, if you just let me know what questions you want answered before that work session, I'll get that to you.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
is that what you want me to get Joe to too?
Right, I'm gonna, yeah, all right, I'm gonna get a
I
question.
see him every day, that's
Yeah.
what
So
I'm gonna get kind of a little form, like for us to put down what goals, what things we want to accomplish, those kinds of things. And
Thursday the
then-
3rd.
and then we can kind of discuss them. Not, you know, we're not voting on anything. We're just gonna have a session to see if we can decide what we want to come up with. All right. That's all I have. We can move on to reports. Does anyone have any questions about reports?
I just have one question. I've got to get all this done. But the grants that we're getting on the coronavirus
Right.
things, will that just go into the general fund and we, okay.
And that's what is allocated to buy mainly the new body cams and new trucks for the fire department.
Oh,
And y'all voted on that. I think it was approved back in May.
but
we
that,
first
part of that
were
money
told that
will
we're
be used
getting-
for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Old business. Ordinance 2020-08, the Iggleville Pike zoning amendment, second reading.
I make a motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion?
I apologize again. I had sent Mark and Chris an email on this just a little while ago, but I didn't see where we had a public hearing set for this zoning ordinance, which needs to be done before we can pass it on second reading.
Okay. So we should table it then, is what you're saying?
Yes,
until
if we table it and then set, give notice in the paper 15 days prior of a public hearing.
Okay. Thank you. So we will table that. Okay, we'll move on down to new business. Discussion of wastewater treatment facility.
Thank you for the opportunity to come down and talk to you tonight. This discussion is, let me get over here.
Wait a minute, we're
I'm making you
dancing.
spin around different directions.
Yeah, I just,
If you recall, a couple months ago, I came down, we talked about the problems with the existing lagoon treatment system. There's no doubt that there's development is interested in coming to Chapel Hill and underway. And we have been analyzing the existing lagoon wastewater treatment plant. It was built in 1989, so it's been in service in excess of 30 years. It was designed as a 170,000 gallon a day plant. Right now, depending on the time of year, during dry weather flows, your flows could be down around 70,000 gallons a day or even less, but during wet weather, they could be in excess of the capacity of the plant. The technology is a lagoon. I think just by that term, everyone in this room knows that that's a pretty basic treatment technology. You basically put the sewage in a big pond and aerate it. So the plant itself is, regardless of whether growth was coming or not, it's in need of some repairs. The liners are in bad shape, and anything that's 30 years old in wastewater treatment, you can just bet you're going to have something done to it. We looked at what we could potentially get out of the wastewater treatment plant as it sits right now if we did a project to renovate the plant you have. And we think that we could potentially get about 260,000 gallons a day of treatment capacity out of it. And that would come at a price of about $2.1 million. Okay. Now, the thing that you've got to keep in mind that is your biggest obstacle here is the permit that the state issues for you to discharge into the Duck River. It's called an NPDES permit. It's a National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit. And it not only specifies the concentration of pollutants, but their total mass in pounds per day. So when you use a technology like lagoon technology, it is not as efficient as what we would call an electromechanical plant. And that's a plant with concrete basins and aerators and final clarifiers. So the state, we met with the state about 6 months ago. It was a room, probably 11 or 12 people there. Mark was there. And they basically said, we're not going to give you any more increase in what you put in the Duck River. They said the TVA was doing a model of the Duck River. And a model is a comprehensive computer model that it could cost millions of dollars to put a model together of the Duck River. And when the results of that were out, maybe there was some opportunity for it. But there's a federal rule called anti-backsliding, which says that you can't get additional permit increases, if that makes sense. Now, there's ways to get around anti-backsliding. It's called social and economic justification. And you probably have a case for that here. But what you would probably end up doing if we went down that path to get more higher limits for the Duck River is you would have to model the Duck River. It'd probably take you about 5 years to do it. Then you'd have to submit that justification to the state, and then you'd have to get some type of approval back from them. And there's no guarantee you'll get anything. So I highly discourage that you go down that path, because I just feel like it's the one more stone to turn over, if that makes sense. Well, now we need this. Well, now we need this. So the question becomes, what can you do with your existing permit and additional growth? What you can do is you can construct a plant that's more efficient. And what those plants do is they take out more of the pollution before it hits the Duck River. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to take more flow into the plant, because the mass you put out is reduced because it's pulled out in the plant instead of flowing through to the river. So we put together two options. The first option was look at what you can do with your existing plant. I spoke to that. It was 2.1 million. And then we put together an option where you have an electromechanical plant, and basically what you do is you would, now this is your lagoon system right here. Flow comes in a lagoon from the park this direction. And then you've got two pipes that come up here. You got an 8-inch and a 6-inch, those two pipes right there. And they come through and go into this splitter box. And most of the time they go around this way at the lagoons. Part of the time you can interject peak flow on this side, and then it's disinfected, and then it flows out to the Duck River through a 6-inch pipe. So if you want to call it the more modern technology option, it would consist of routing the force mains up to a screening head work section, which basically just takes out all the inorganic material a 1/4 inch and larger. It splits the flow. Initially, we would only construct one of these tanks. You see this one's dashed, and this would have about a 500,000 gallon a day capacity, which is about 3 times what this lagoon can do. So this alone gets you an idea of how much more efficient these plants are. The solids would settle out in these two tanks right here. They're called final clarifiers. The clear liquid would go through a UV disinfection chamber, which you don't have to use chemicals to do that. It's UV light. And then we would probably have to pump it to the river because the flow rate would be higher, and we'd probably have to replace the pipe down to the Duck River. It's a 6-inch now, and we just can't physically get the flow out of the plant through a 6-inch pipe. So this is about $6.5 million, and it gives you the flexibility to go to 500,000 gallons a day now. In the future, you can just build this additional tank and go to 1 million gallons a day. And I've sized these 2 final clarifiers to take the flow from this device here, because you got to have 2 of them by state rule and design criteria. And I'd hate for you to have to build a 3rd one over here down the road. It just wouldn't make efficient sense. So fixing this gets you to about 260,000 gallons a day, which is about another 90,000 gallons a day. And then you're basically done. So what would happen if you fix this and you get to that point? You're gonna come over here and build this. That's what's gonna happen. So I know this is a big decision. This is a very large number. We looked at some rates, and Mark and Christian kind of elaborate on that, what it would take to pay for this plant. And we looked at the debt service and the depreciation on the plant. And it appears is that somewhere around 40 to 45 new homes a year will make this cash flow. Now, I'm not a CPA, I'm an engineer. So that's kind of outside my league. But I do stay involved with customers and clients when it comes to setting rates, and they ask me my opinion of that. So in a nutshell, where you are is, if you do nothing, you've got a sewer moratorium, and you're going to sit where you are, and eventually you're going to spend some money on this. It's just can't go on forever. There's a chance that you may get enforcement action from the state on this for permit violations. If you fix this, you can probably buy yourself a few years, and then it'll be at its capacity. And then option 3 is just go ahead and bite the bullet and construct this. This will get you 3 times what you have now, and expandable to 6 times what you have now. And about 1 million gallons a day is all the current permit can do. So it would be my thoughts that once you get this constructed, you start working with the state over an extended period where you might get a permit increase, so that if you ever have to go over 1 million gallons a day, that you've got something there. So,
But we might not get permission for the increase.
if you don't get permission, that's way on down the road from now, then you'll have to put in some additional processes out here to filter the effluent down lower, and that would allow you to keep discharging. So you're not just painted into a corner if you can't get that increase above 1 million gallons a day.
I mean, as it stands now, permission wise, if we bit the bullet and got the new job, we have permission from the state to put all that in the duct.
Yes, ma'am. What we would do is that the equivalent loading of this plant at 170,000 gallons a day,
Yeah.
this plant can do 500,000 and meet that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Now, there would be a minor permit modification required. We would have to get the flow to the duct, I guess you'd say permitted. The pollutants. So we would have to get that permit modified. And it's a pretty routine affair, but I'm just letting you know that it's something I can't control, but it's not something that I think will be a showstopper.
How many houses do you think you take to pay that off?
We just ran some preliminary numbers for us, and it depends on how much you charge each. I'm getting way outside my comfort zone here, so don't hold me to it. It's going to depend on an impact fee, and I'm going to call it an impact fee. I don't even know what you call it. It could be called a wastewater treatment capacity fee. And if that number is set appropriately, and we had looked at $5,000 on top of the sewer tap fee
Per home.
per home. And if you get about 40 a year in, which is about 6% growth right now, that will pay for that. Now there's going to be additional cost of operation. There's going to be, some depreciation, and we've depreciated this plant over 35 years to arrive at the number. So these are just the preliminary numbers. Look like at about 40 to 45 homes a year, that it would not be placed onto the backs of the existing customers. Does that sound about right?
Oh,
Okay,
So it seems like anything we do with lagoons is nothing more than a Band-Aid.
Right.
I would say that's correct.
But that's old people living here, so we'll get the bills outrageous anything.
Right. Now, there's risk. If you just bite off on this and then the United States goes into a depression, and with the great plans you may have, bad things happen. If that happens, then you would be forced by the state to raise rates to pay for the debt of that. Now, I give that a pretty low chance, but I'm just being totally transparent with you all that bad things can happen. So one of the things you could think about is, and we talked about this the other day, is get the preliminary matters settled. You could go ahead and get your permit work done. You can get the plans prepared and ready to bid for construction. And what that would allow you to do is kind of see how things are going before you made the step on the big construction dollars. But once you go into this thing, if the next year of development just dries up, which, you know, Chapel Hill, and I get paid to be a pessimist and tell you the bad news. That's what I get paid to do. But Chapel Hill is positioned in an area that it looks like that it is on the cusp of some pretty big things. But nobody can predict the future, and there's a risk associated with that. So I don't want you to think about $6.7 million, $6.5 million right now. If we let this thing string out 5 years, it's going to be more than that, because the cost of inflation of building these plants goes up faster than the consumer price index. But what I want you to think about is, what do we need to do? And what you need to do is build this. That's what you need to do. The problem is how to pay for it. And let's get the permit, let's get the preliminary matters settled. Let's see what kind of grant funds may be available. Let's see if we can pull the park into this somehow. I mean, you're their future too. Your treatment plant is. And let's see if we can't cut that $6.5 million down some. And you just can't tell what might happen. I mean, I know one of the things Governor Lee, his number one executive order when he, or one of his number one goals when he took office was develop rural communities. And he stood behind that.
Say we were to say yes to this tomorrow, what kind of time frame does it take to put up one of these plants? Like in Mr. Knox's case, you know, he would need it in a year and a half, you know.
Right.
Would we, is that feasible?
There's no way we get it in operation.
Can I speak to that just a second?
Yes.
You know, as we talked about in our meeting the other day, Brian, we do have some capacity right now. So I don't think that Mr. Knox's 70 homes would impact, you know, our plans, because we have capacity right now to take in 70 more homes. We just don't have, you know, if the question is asked, do we have the capacity to approve several hundred home subdivision plat? The answer would be no, but the 70 homes that he's planning on phase one, I don't believe would have, you know, an impact on things, because we do have capacity right now that actually we need to utilize over the next few years to gain as much revenue as we possibly can going into this. So having said that, we would run out of capacity at some point in the future, but I believe that it's more likely that we would be under construction and close to being finished with this project before our current capacity was, before we run out of our current capacity.
Yeah, I think that's the question I was trying to ask. Thank you, Mark.
You said our capacity maxed out was 170.
Yes, sir.
And you said you could be close to that now, depending on the weather.
Yes, sir.
That's about his 70.
170,000 gallons a day. He's got
Yes.
70 lots.
Yes.
And they would be, probably what he's asking for is somewhere around.
You did say we was
1,400
almost at our
gallons a day.
capacity. You did say we could be at our capacity now.
Well, that's the problem with comparing flow to pollutant loading.
Correct.
The reason the flow's higher in the winter is because it's raining and it's washing stuff in your sewer system and then through people's yards. So when we look at sewer capacity, I'm with Mark. You've got sufficient capacity to patch you through until you take a bold step. But you don't have sufficient capacity to just keep saying yes and yes and yes. And if you do that, then you will get to a point where you are under enforcement action and it will be on their schedule. Back to your question, it'll take about a year to get the permit and get the plant designed and ready to bid.
Okay.
And then it'll take about 24 months, 18 to 24 months to build it.
Okay,
So 3 years out.
Yes, sir.
3 years.
But his project is going to be in the process of taking about a year and a half.
Before I
So,
tap
see,
it,
And then
Yeah.
we're still good with.
But he
the-
can't move till,
He can't move until we say yes
Yeah.
to 70 tests. And he's been more than cooperative.
I say
He's
go
been
ahead.
coming in as long as I've been on the board now.
I say go ahead, and if he can do it, do it. Let him go ahead and build.
How do we pay for this plant?
What me and Mark have talked about and ran some numbers is putting in a capacity fee, and we come up to the number of $5,000 per house.
This would be per new house?
Yeah,
or
per any new house.
So this will fall under developers?
Yeah,
Okay, that's on top of
for
the,
anybody who comes in and builds a new house, they would have to pay the $5,000 capacity
Okay.
fee if y'all pass it. And that's,
which, then that would give the total of their fees.
they have tap fees
for
in.
the, for the sewer, and then based on the growth rate of like 6%, 40 to 45 houses a year,
We're doing
that would
that.
essentially pay for it. But like you said, there's also additional operating costs. We have to have some extra personnel and electrical and whatnot, but.
And of course, we're not gonna do anything, tonight.
Right. Question. Now, so it'd be a 5,000, you guys talk about a 5,000 plus the sewer tap?
Yes.
What's the total we're looking at then per new house?
$7,500?
Count the water tap.
About $10,000.
That includes water tap?
Water's tap, sewer tap, and then if we did the capacity,
How much is just the sewer tap? Because I got water.
$2,500.
25. Oh, so 7,500.
Okay, so any more discussion, any other questions for? Well, this is,
What does this do to our, I know this is just sewer only, but where do we stand out on water as well to control the sewer? We have the water supply through that, right?
I believe that since the county has done what they have done with the work they're bringing up Verona Caney and planning on 31A, I think that they can send enough water through those lines, through either one of those lines to to service the amount of development that we're talking about here.
Are we still planning on tying in that line at some point, Mark, with a 6-inch, 8-inch line?
Which line?
Come across the river.
The one that the county will bring up here, it will tie into our lines, yes.
Did we get a bigger, didn't we pay them at one time some money to do that? Is that still on the plan?
It's still on the table to do that. We did agree to help with the cost of the project coming up 31A, because that was essentially gonna give us access to the water that we needed for the foreseeable future.
And that's still in plan, right?
That's correct. We haven't contributed anything to that project yet. I think the last I heard, they're still working on easements, but that's something that we still plan to do.
Okay, so we still have that money.
is there any other discussion?
I think that answers it seems like a no-brainer if these guys are coming with the money.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Okay, I feel like removing that way. I
You don't have to.
And it looks like it's the only way. Now, as far as, did you have something that you wanted to?
Well, I'd say if he can go ahead and build them, get together a year and a half for a start. Why not let him go ahead? Let him know.
We should at least be started with the project.
I'm fine with it.
In what, yeah,
I'll make a motion to do it.
so I have a motion and a second.
We can't do that with the current moratorium. No.
We'd have to lift more.
We're lifting, that's what,
We're just gonna go ahead and lift it?
Yeah.
I think that the moratorium will automatically go away if you don't extend it.
Okay.
So if no action is taken on the moratorium, it will go away.
At this point, we at least have a plan.
and we will be working on that plan to satisfy you.
Yeah, that's fine. And so
Are we lifting the moratorium as of right now, so I can,
Not-
I'm putting stuff through
When
the
does,
planning
when
committee.
It's to
does,
expire tonight.
it expires tonight?
Okay, perfect.
So what
I
is the
appreciate that.
motion?
We're not extending.
We're not gonna
this
extend the
motion,
moratorium.
So it's.
Well, that went away
so-
anyway, so we didn't need to vote on that.
Right, so there's no reason, so we take that off the table.
If for some reason things go bad, can we bring it back into play?
Yes, at any time we want to.
We can bring it back into
Anytime we
play,
need
but
to.
right now, you're in good shape, and,
I appreciate that, thank you very much.
Very quick, dig a hole.
Thank
Dig a hole.
Yeah.
We'll get started right tomorrow. I'm knocking
and,
stuff down.
I think one of the things we need to start working, that will be on our discussions for the next
Yeah,
time.
we can put that on one of
this.
the work sessions.
On the work session, and I think that will work really well. Resolution 2020-20, our safety grant.
What's this for, Big Mark?
This is a grant that is available through our insurance company, and basically it allows us to buy some safety items and get reimbursed up to half of what we spend. And I think we put in there $1,500. So if we buy $1,500 worth of cones, PPE, and barricades for traffic safety, then we would get reimbursed up to $750.
I make a motion.
I have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Resolution 2020-21, floor covering.
Is that for here?
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in
Marion,
Yes.
May I clarify? I talked with Mark earlier about this, and the current purchasing policy does limit his authority to make expenditures to $5,000. But what I would suggest is that I think for the materials only, if that can be broken up into increments that are less than the $5,000 amount, and then the labor be bid out separately and that come in under 5,000, that will probably work. Just wanted to clarify that, and I think Mark understood that he would still be getting different quotes and estimates on those materials before making those purchases. Is that your understanding, Mark?
Yes, sir. I'm just trying to move this project along and get this floor down as quick as we can. And I think we can save money by buying the materials because we're not going to be paying taxes or margin on the materials. So I believe if we can just, be allowed to go out and shop for the materials and get a good deal on what we need, we'll be saving some money.
So does that mean we don't need to vote on this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what I expressed to Mark is this is basically you're giving him okay to break those up into those, this project up into those elements instead of just bidding out the entire project.
But that's not what it says.
Anything to save us money.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it does. I'm
It does
sorry.
say-
It does say that's materials. I got you.
We got a motion.
We got a. Any opposition? Motion carries. Animal shelter in a local agreement. 2020-22.
I'd like to speak to this if I could. This is something that actually Mayor Kenny and Mayor Bingham and Lewisburg have worked on the last couple of years. I went to them a couple of years ago because we had some issues where we had some dog problems and some dog calls, and we weren't able to take them anywhere because there was no space. And they, in expanding their facility over there, had agreed to build out some additional space, 4 spaces that was guaranteed to us if we have any issues now and going forward. And I think it's a really great deal for us to be able to tag onto their animal control program and have guaranteed space. And Chief Khan may or may not want to speak a little more to this, but it's something we've had budgeted for the last 2 years in a row, and we're just now getting to the point where we've got an agreement to look at.
cost, the cost of that.
Of course, that's.
Have they got their problems taken care of down there, Mark? There for a while, there wasn't even a attendant down there. When they kicked the group out, there was nobody manning them animals.
I think that they have worked out some of those problems, Brian. I'm not familiar with the exact ones that you may be referring to, but I do know that there's been some additional funding and some additional training that's went on, in that area. And like I say, in talking to Chief Kine last couple of years, what all we're trying to guarantee is that when we call, that there's a spot open for the dogs that we need to get somewhere.
I just want to make sure if we're giving them money, there's somebody there to take care of them dogs that we need to get somewhere.
And it's still a no-kill shelter because
Yeah.
the group, yeah.
Before I vote on this, I'd really like somebody to do a little research on that first. Because the place went to hell.
You want to table it?
I would love to table it till one of us can check in with the animal shelter to make sure that's being done right.
I have a motion to
And
table it.
now we're just giving them that for nothing. Or
Or they're just dumping
them off
we
somewhere
need to
else.
make sure that it's a no-kill shelter still.
I have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion, and a second. All in favor of tabling it, say aye.
And we want to
Any
do a
opposition?
no-kill shelter.
Motion carries. We'll discuss that later. All right, resolution 2020-24 for a library advisory. I skipped one, I'm sorry, internal controls policy 2020-23. Internal controls policy.
And this is, I'm bringing this before the board because we currently don't have an internal controls policy in place, and we are needing this passed for our audit because this is one of our audit findings. Because the state of Tennessee requires every city to have an internal controls policy in place. Now this is, this will be something that will be reviewed and updated on an annual basis. So this is not by any means final, but something that we would work on to update.
Do we pretty much follow these?
Yeah.
We do?
Yeah.
I do have a problem with one thing, this organizational chart.
It's in the back.
I look and I see we have the town treasurer, and under the town treasurer, and it looks,
Well, that's the same part.
but it's not.
Yeah.
And then we have Public Works Director. I've not heard of that one. I mean, it may be, but I just had never heard of it. So I have a problem passing that with the organizational chart until we discuss that part. Now, I know this, I looked it up and I saw the exact thing online with a few minor changes in that, but it was mighty difficult to read every bit of it. Did you get every bit of it read?
It is pretty lengthy.
I would have liked to be able to have had some of the things discussed. And at first, when I was reading some of it, I thought that maybe it looked like we were replacing one,
We don't currently have.
and we don't currently have one.
Marion?
Yeah.
Chris, I've got, and I just looked quickly because I know we had adopted one previously, and I found one from 2013 that looks like it was adopted. And so, Chris, you might just look back between now and last time to see if you can find it. If not, I'll send you the copy I have.
So would that work for you to have, till we get this? I'd like, before I vote on anything, to discuss it.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Shall we table this till we have a work session?
He got that,
Okay,
he's got the same thing, I guess.
but for his audit, he has something to cover for his audit since he found it. So if we want to discuss it at one of our planning things, I think that would be great. So do I have a motion to table it?
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion to table?
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to 2020-24 Library Advisory Board. Basically, I think this would be a good thing. And I have found some people that will serve on this, to see that it runs here in Chapel Hill. And so I'm asking that you, pass this resolution.
I'll make a motion.
I have a motion, a second. Any discussion?
You tell us if it's gonna be.
Yes, that will be, Beth Chun, Becky Delk, both of those are librarians, and Brenda Brown. And she is on the county, library board. So, and she taught English here.
Okay, I'm not
Okay.
familiar with that. Unfortunately, I didn't know the school here, guys.
That's good as you're gonna get.
Okay, so any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposition? Motion carries. Resolution 2020-25, Police Department Body Cameras.
I make a motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Anything you got on that, Chief?
Unless you have any questions, we're basically just upgrading the ones we have that are almost 5 years old, and it's time to go to the new model. And most of it will be covered by the grant that we received from the state.
Is this the one that you gotta download every night type? I've been watching it, the Metro body cameras they keep talking about every morning on the news. Does it download to a server and everything? Is that where's that?
Yeah, we already have the system in place, and so what this does is when the vehicle rolls up, they can put their body cam in the holster, and it will also go to the server. It is the same system that Metro has, but we've had it for, like I said, about 5 years now, so it's just
We haven't have to go around for everybody that have one, right? Good.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposition? We'll move on to other business. Is there any other business? Anybody want to say anything else from the?
Is there something we gotta do for the Horton guys tonight?
I think you tabled ours, I just need to know dates, and you're gonna bring that up again.
Oh, okay, we gotta do the newspaper thing.
All right, I'll
I'm
entertain a
ready to adjourn.
Okay.
Second,
So
all in-
we'll be ready for them by the next meeting, is that, okay. Make sure we got it posted next week.
All right, it's been fun. We're all gonna be back, so,
In about a week.
yeah, we purchased this